My name is Marília Monteiro, and this is actually a documentation of a public policy that I was part of, along with Yasodara Cordova, which is a web specialist that is watching us from Boston. She's a fellow at the Berkman Klein Center at Harvard University, and she's actually the expert on the web techniques that I'm going to try to present to you today. We worked together last year in Brazil. We are both Brazilians, at the Ministry of Justice in public policy regarding public consultation, so direct participations on public policy, especially crowdsourcing of laws. So our idea primarily was to bring some of the Brazilian energy. So Brazilian users are the biggest users of Facebook, Twitter, and WhatsApp. So we really engage in networking. So we try to bring this to public policy or to participation in public policies. So we address this as public consultations for bringing bills or drafting of bills to public scrutiny and crowdsource the lawmaking or drafting of laws to the actual people that are being regulated by those. Why? Well, law, they have a similar structure, especially in countries of common laws like Brazil, civil law, sorry, like Brazil. So they share a basic structure, so we thought this could be more or less standardized. And we have two examples of that. I'm going to actually present what we did with the data privacy bill. The most known example is actually the Brazilian civil rights framework for the internet, which actually became a law in 2014 after 3 years of public debate. This text was actually crowdsourced since the beginning with basic principles and then structured into a text of law, and then it was debated in Congress and became an actual law that is today in force. And then we try to do the same thing with a data privacy bill that is still actually in Congress, but then I will start explaining what we did from the beginning. So this bill was actually part of two different public consultations, and the second one that was in 2015 had this basic platform with a draft of a text where everyone could comment on it. So you have the article, and then you click and you comment, and you can agree with the article, propose a new text, debate with your peers, and simply agree or disagree, say, comment things about it, comment the quality of the text, propose a new one. And we also had the possibilities of scholars, academics, and the private sector, people that didn't want to actually engage in communicating or talking with people on this, in this particular way, to upload their work to the platform, that this would also be considered. So we had these actors involved. So we had people collaborating and institutions presenting their work that they were doing regarding privacy and data protection, because what we wanted to do was to gather the biggest input possible on this, because actually Brazil is, if not the only one, the second country in Latin America that has no regulation on privacy whatsoever. So we had the reorganizer, that is actually a cute name for the policymaker, and we had the algorithms, because we were working in collaboration with the Brazilian chapter of the W3C. This was actually a bigger program of the W3C inside the Brazilian government. It was the Open Data Program. So the W3C office in Brazil was helping on building the open data from the government. So what we wanted to do was to do something more and beyond opening the data, because we have a lot of open data, public open data, that it's actually not being used. It's there, but it's not being used for several reasons. One of them is because it's not actually very easy to use this data. So we wanted to go beyond, so we teamed up the reorganizer and the web specialist to do something more with the data, the open data, and to help the policymaker or the legislator to come up with the best outcome or with the best way of looking into those inputs. So we had the new text after all the comments, and we also had interactive interfaces with the data. So we had two ways of gathering the data. One was break down the contributions that we received from academia primarily into text or data that could be analyzed by the web specialists, since they didn't have the actual knowledge on what regulate privacy was. And the reorganizer or the people at the Ministry of Justice also did dictionary, like key elements to help the web specialist. This is just an example of the key setting. And then the data gathered on the platform, the data on the contributions and also data on the users were used by the web specialists to come up with 3 types of products. So one of them was a series of algorithms to come up with a new bill. So they would be actually work as the legislators. And a dashboard, so an interface with the sentiment analysis, for example, or influence and opinions. And then a product for the open data program on how to work with public consultations on participations online. So this was our main requirements to do this project. So it must be open source, transparent and reliable, which are principles that we think the Parliament should also be based on. So this is one example, the dashboard. So it is a visualization. I can show you interactively, but I don't know if we have time, but I can show you after. This is a visualization based on the article. So this squared part here is the articles. You can click on the articles and then they would show how people were commenting cross articles, making references cross articles, and also the circles are users, so you can see how users could interact among each other and among articles. So based on this, we could make inferences on who were the big influencers, so who were the opinion makers actually on this discussion. So we could shed a light on things that are range from lobby to public opinion on certain things like national security and privacy. So we had we could form these sorts of influence that we called opinion forming. So we also had sentiment analysis, and the overall sentiment on the bill was negative. We had a lot of people saying, we don't like this, this is not the correct way of doing, which is in certain ways positive for the people drafting it to actually see what we were doing wrong. And what we actually tried to do, so this was our goal from the beginning, this was the original text. And based on the interface and the data that we gathered, the algorithm would come up with like the good outcome, and people could actually trace how this new text was built and how the different political powers forced this new text, and all of this would be visualized and transparent and reliable. But this was the first attempt of doing that, and I won't say that we failed, but we didn't gather enough data to do that. We received more or less 2,500 contributions, which is not enough to feed an algorithm or to feed something like that. And also communicating policymakers, in this case lawyers and web specialists, is not something very easy because we speak different languages. And coordinating was also hard, but it was a big step on setting at least a standard on public participation online, at least in our country, as a national agenda. So one thing that we addressed as necessary was we need big data, we need massive participation when we didn't have. And this is actually the most challenging part, is to actually engage people in things I don't know, and especially in legal jargon. This is very hard for people. Although this is something absolutely important, like privacy, engaging people in legal jargon is really hard. And actually institutionalize this as an agenda inside the federal government. What we managed to do was we have one platform for any ministry or department or even a legislator that wants to present a bill and wants a participation online. We have the same platform now that is called participa.br, like participate.br. And we also have all the code that we used, all the analysis that were made, all of the data that was generated, all the products that generated from this first attempt is on GitHub. If you read Brazilian Portuguese, you're more than welcome to read it. And if not, please come to me and Yazodara Cordova on our contact and ask more questions.
Thank you very much. One question.
Twitter and other social media, and in your analysis for in your software and coding and participating in making policy making?
Maybe the platform. The platform was not, well, sexy enough like Facebook and Twitter, they are. And also people don't want to create another login and have another interface to interact. So this is a challenge, make people use another platform. One thing that we had to do was to have like official accounts from the debate on Facebook and Twitter. And people would actually comment the law on Twitter and on Facebook, but we couldn't use that data. So this can be a future way of doing that. For the privacy, for the data protection bill, we didn't think it was a good way to start a conversation on privacy on Facebook, using Facebook as the tool. This was actually a personal choice. But people actually used a lot Facebook and Twitter to comment on. This was an idea actually of the web specialist at the W3C office and the Federal University of Minas Gerais. They also made the analysis to use social media to make, more inferences on the debate and what are people discussing on social networks that they actually use and what people are discussing on this official platform that people might not be using. But this is maybe a future step.
Okay, thanks again, Marília.